Good afternoon, students. Many of you might have seen the movie Titanic, right? A tragic filled movie. In that, the Titanic ship, which sank and killed so many people. Why did actually the Titanic ship sank? Okay, you can see the newspaper heading where it mentions why actually the Titanic ship sank. So Titanic sinks 4 hours after hitting an iceberg. So it hit an iceberg, right? So whether it was not visible for the pilot, the iceberg, it was indeed visible, but the problem it is the pilot has underestimated the size of the iceberg until he comes closer to that iceberg. So only he could see the tip of the iceberg and the majority of the iceberg was submerged. So he underestimated it, and when he saw actually there is a bigger submerged portion is there, it was too late to divert the direction of the ship, and ultimately it ended up in hitting the iceberg, and the whole ship sank and killing so many people. Right? Maybe around 1,250 people have died. So what exactly is the iceberg phenomenon of disease? So only the tip of the iceberg is visible, whereas the majority of the portion of the iceberg will be submerged. So is it limited only to the iceberg and the water? No, the such situation or the scenario exists even in the medical field, where if you look at the number of people who are deceased, you can see only the few people who have been diagnosed. But there exists a plenty of people who are either asymptomatic or not been diagnosed yet. They constitute a more bulk compared to the tip which is visible. The symptomatic cases or the diagnosed cases only few compared to the submerged portion which is asymptomatic, maybe a little bigger version. So such phenomenon also exist in health. The iceberg phenomenon is existing in health field also. So what is the today's class now? So I'll be talking about detecting that submerged portion of the iceberg. Not in a real sense with respect to the health, how to detect that submerged portion, or the undetected cases, diagnosed cases to be detected with the help of the screening. So today's topic is screening for diseases. So specific learning objectives for the today's class are: you should be able to define screening at the end of the class. You should be able to enumerate the types of screening, enumerate the uses of screening. You should be able to enumerate the evaluation methods of screening and enlist the criteria for a screening test. So now coming to the definition of screening. What exactly we mean by screening? So screening is search. We want to search. What we want to search? Search for the unrecognized disease or a defect. Unrecognized disease. Someone is having a COVID, you want to detect it. Or maybe a defect. A child is having a congenital defects, right? Which you want to detect it by doing a screening. So search for unrecognized disease or defect by means of rapidly applied tests. It may be examinations or other procedures, like it may be a what we do the test for detection of cervical cancer, like pap smear. So it may be pap smear, it may be a breast examination for breast cancer, or it may be some tests like the urine test for the detection of the diabetes, right? So by means of rapidly applied test, examinations or other procedures in apparently healthy individual, that means at that point when you're doing that procedure, test or examination, he or she has not shown any signs or symptoms. Search for unrecognized disease or defect by means of rapidly applied tests, examinations, or other procedures in apparently healthy individuals is called as screening. So how does it differ from periodic health examination? So screening is capable of wider application, is relatively inexpensive and require little physician time, right? So many times it can be done by a technician or maybe other paramedical health workers. Need not require a physician for a screening test. So Screening differs from periodic health examination. So before proceeding, you should be knowing what is a lead time, the concept of lead time. So look at the picture there. So what you are seeing, so there is a straight line. So how a disease will onset. If you are not intervening the natural course of a disease, how does it proceed? So there will be a period where the disease will onset. Then there is a period where you can detect. So immediately after, it may be just a cellular change, you may not be able to detect it with any technology available, right? So but there exists a point where you'll be able to detect it. That comes after some time. That is the first possible point where you can make a diagnosis. After that, then comes a period where the final critical diagnosis means beyond that, if you detect, you can't reverse that. Beyond that, we can't reverse it. Already the changes have occurred. Disease has set in. That is the final critical diagnosis. So that means if you detect before that, there is a worth of detecting it early. Beyond that, there is not much alteration even if you intervene. Right? That is the final critical diagnosis point. Then there is a point where usual time of diagnosis will be there. So usually many a times the cases will be diagnosed after that final critical diagnosis phase is over, right? So that is a usual time of diagnosis. Then there will be an outcome. So outcome may be a death, outcome may be a disability, right? Or maybe having a morbidity for a short period of time. Such outcomes will occur, right? So if you intervene at the, if you diagnose at the first possible point, if you diagnose there and if you intervene, obviously there will be change in the course. So that course lead to an outcome that is a B. So that's a B minus A is an out the gain, right? So what you are gaining is the difference between the A and B. Okay, that is difficult to explain in a medical terminology, but okay, you might have saved someone's life, or you might have saved someone's saved from disability. That's what we are going to gain if you are going to intervene at earliest, if you diagnose it earliest, right? So that time we call as a screening time for the first possible point to the final critical diagnosis. Even if you diagnose later, it's not having an added advantage, right? That period is called as a screening time. So if you're going to diagnose during that period, so definitely you're going to save the patient's life, or maybe going to alter the course of the disease, and ultimately the suffering will be reduced, right? That period we call as a screening time. It is a time period between first possible point of diagnosis and the final critical diagnosis phase. And there exists something called as a lead time. So lead time is the time gap between the first possible point of a diagnosis till the usual time of diagnosis. So usually it is diagnosed after a few months, but there is tests available which can detect with a slight change in the cellular level or maybe any other level, right? So that time we call as a lead time. So whole of a lead time need not be an advantageous. It is a screening time which is having an advantage, right? So screening time is between first possible time of diagnosis to the final critical diagnosis phase. Means beyond that, there will be no permanent change can't be brought back, right? Then lead time is from the first possible point of a diagnosis till the usual time of diagnosis. We call it as lead time. So whether the screening test and diagnostic test are same, usually it's a different, right? So but sometimes okay, for some diseases the screening test and diagnostic test may be same, right? But in usual sense, when you want to use the terminology, screening test is different from the diagnostic test. So screening test usually we apply for apparently healthy individual. He doesn't have any signs or symptoms of it, right? So we're going to apply it so that undiagnosed disease we want to diagnose it. So screening test is done in apparently healthy individual. He's not healthy. Apparently healthy means he don't have any signs and symptoms. He's looking healthy. So in that, whether he has a disease or what, for that we detect, we apply a test or a procedure or examination. So that becomes a screening test. Diagnostic test where usually when you apply, so on those with indications or a sick, he has a symptoms, he's having cough, cold, right? So we want to test for the corona, right? So we are going to do an RT-PCR test. Or maybe someone is having the polyphagia, polydipsia or non-healing ulcer is there. You want to diagnose, you're going to do a blood sugar level. That is for diagnosing of diabetes mellitus, right? So diagnostic test usually done when a person is having signs or symptoms, he's sick. A screening test is usually applied for the groups, whereas a diagnostic test is applied to a single patient. Then screening test results are arbitrary and final. The results are final, but they don't make you a diagnosis, right? So diagnostic test is not a final, but it is modified in light of new evidence. Diagnosis is sum of all evidence. We take into consideration everything, whatever the clinical findings the person is having, along with we correlate with the laboratory investigations, and then we make a diagnosis. So screening test we have a one criteria or a cutoff point, right? So beyond that, we advise for a diagnostic test. We are not going to diagnose it, right? What I said arbitrary means we are not making a final diagnosis from a screening test. So someone's blood sugar level is beyond this one, so we are going to send him for further confirmation, right? So that what the screening test does. So it is a there will be a cutoff value. Diagnostic tests are based on evaluation of number of symptoms, signs and laboratory findings, which I already said. And screening tests are less accurate, as the diagnostic tests are more accurate. But screening tests are easy to do, so hence obviously they'll be less expensive. Diagnostic tests are more expensive. Screening test is not a basis for treatment. We just want to separate someone, whether he is healthy or unhealthy. He is looking apparently healthy, but we still want to differentiate. That time we use a screening test. So it is not a basis for treatment, whereas a diagnostic test acts as a basis for treatment. And a screening test initiative comes from the investigator or agency providing the care. Right? It is the doctor or a healthcare provider who initiates a screening test. Whereas a diagnostic test is initiated from the patient. He has a symptom. He has some symptoms with which, because of that, he comes to the hospital. Then we do an investigation. That is a diagnostic test. So what are the aims and objectives of a screening? So we usually want to sort out from a large group of apparently healthy persons, those are apparently abnormal. What you do is there is a group of people who are looking normal, they are healthy, but are they just looking healthy or really healthy, right? So you have a cutoff value, based on that you decide. So someone is falling the other way, their findings is in a negative side, so you label them as abnormal. Those whose range falls in normal, so you label them as normal. So until that they're looking healthy only. So only based on your screening test what you used, you have classified them into apparently normal and apparently abnormal, right? So those who are apparently abnormal, as screening tests are usually not a diagnostic test, obviously further treatment, further test needs to be done, right? It may be apparently abnormal, then you do a diagnostic test, but that comes as a normal, then you want to do a periodical rescreening, right? So it may be sometimes the intermediate result may come, or the diagnostic test may tell you that yes, it is a confirmed, the person is having diabetes has been confirmed, then you have to treat him, right? So the main aims and objectives of a screening test is to differentiate those into apparently normal and apparently abnormal. So all are looking healthy, but ultimately the test has resulted into differentiation into two categories. Those both the groups will not be having signs and symptoms, right? So uses of screening. So what are the uses? One thing is for case detection. It is a, we call it as a prescriptive screening. A newborn is there where you will do a screening. You want to look for any cleft palate, it's just an examination, right? So or you want to look for any other congenital malformations is there, right? So that we can detect it and we can treat it, right? For case detection it can be done. Or maybe for you want to check for a diabetes mellitus so that you can treat it, right? So you check someone's uh, sugar in the urine and it is found there is a sugar in the urine of someone individual, it is abnormal, so then you will send in for confirmation for the blood sugar level, so that tell you whether he is having diabetes or not. We'll start a treatment. So for the benefit of the patient you are done the screening, right? Sometimes we also do control of the disease, prospective screening, right? So someone is entering from the UK to India, right? So UK to India they are entering, and we suspect that in India, okay, if I look back 1.5 years back, and There was no corona in India, but there is a corona in England. So you want to test everybody for that time. You can say the screening test was fever. You just take the fever. So you can see that the RT-PCR becomes a diagnostic test. Looking for fever may become a screening test. Right. So if you just fever doesn't mean that he is having a COVID, right? But you have differentiated them into those having fever and those. Again, you do a diagnostic test. Okay, he comes to be positive, then we can say he's having COVID. So thermal screening, right? So it's just screening. But why you did? So that those infected persons shouldn't enter India without any taking measures, so that India shouldn't get the disease. For the benefit of others, you are doing a screening measure. That is a prospective screening, right? Of course, he himself also will be getting benefited with that. But when you are doing some screening, so that you want to limit the spread, so that we call as a prospective screening. And usually prospective screening for done for a communicable diseases, where the risk of transmission to someone else will be there, right? Okay, that is controlling of the disease. We can do a screening, or maybe you are just checking the family members, right? So sometimes you can use artificial itself as a screening, right? The family members. As I said, sometimes screening test and the diagnostic test can be same, right? But ideally we use a screening test which is a more easier to do, simple to do, right? For that control you can do. Then next is research purposes. So when you want to know what is the natural course of a disease, so you have detected the case today, right, before the usual time of diagnosis, how the course, how the natural course of the disease will be there, what all signs and symptoms, after how many days the person will develop the symptoms, right? So to, if you want to evaluate by taking a serial blood culture or maybe samples of something, some parameters you are examining, all that can be done for the research purpose. Or it can also act as educational opportunities. So all these aged above 30 years, you are screened for the diabetes and also screened for the hypertension. You just educated them regarding the diabetes or the hypertension at the same time, right? So you can act as a educational opportunities also. So the uses of screening is for case detection, so which benefits the individual. Control of the diseases. It is a prospective because it helps in preventing disease in others and overall controlling in a community. Then it can be used for a research purpose, can be used for educational opportunities. Next coming to the types of screening. So one thing is mass screening. So irrespective of their risk, everybody in a particular area will be checked. Everybody will be screened, and that becomes a mass screening. So in a village, you just go there and everybody you want to do a rapid test for corona, right? It becomes a mass screening, right? So usually less accurate I said. So rapid test is a less accurate. So it can also be called as a screening test, alright? So but it is positive means usually we assume that it is a positive only, right? Okay. So mass screening, all the people you are doing. You go to a particular village, you check for the their blood glucose level or something, and if anybody is found to be higher blood glucose level, you may be saying them as the having diabetes, or you may be just taking their urine sugar level. Based on that you want to classify them and later refer for the blood sugar for the second stage, right? So it's mass screening means all the people in that area will be screened. It is a high risk or a selected screening. So because mass screening requires more amount of money, more amount of manpower, time, so everything will be wasted, right? So you can just screen those who are at high risk. If you are suspecting in a village, means you just take down all those who are symptomatic and their contacts for corona, right? If you're checking for COVID, this is one example. Or maybe if you're checking for, if you want doing a screening for hypertension or for a diabetes, you just take all those aged above the age of 30 years, because it's there is no meaning in checking for all the children of 10 years, 15 years, 20 years for diabetes who are at risk about 30 to 40 and more risk, right? So you can screen them. That becomes a high risk or a selected screening. Then there is a multi-phasic screening, so where simultaneously many diseases are screened. Right? In some of the developed countries, they tried that at a simultaneously they'll be checking. Okay, one example is where they'll be doing at birth. So they'll be collecting a blood sample. So you just want to do many hereditary diseases are there. They just want to do testing, like there is a Guthrie test is there, right? So the laboratory test or some other blood test are done by heel prick to the newborn. They'll screen for so many metabolic disorders of a newborn, right? So that's the one way of multiphasic screening. So multiple examinations, questionnaires, or a tests will be done simultaneously. That becomes a multiphasic screening. There's one more type, some want to say that is a multi-stage where you want to do 2 or 3 stages. So first test if it is positive, then only you are going to do for a second test, right? So that way also we can classify. But main classification of types of screening is mass screening, where everybody in the area will be screened, and there is a high risk or a selected screening. Only those at risk, high risk, will be screened. And next is multiphasic. Simultaneously, so many diseases will be screened. Now coming to the criteria for screening, right? So just because I am free, I just can't keep on screening every individual for every disease, right? So catch hold of one and start doing each and every test possible. No, right? So what disease needs to be screened? What test needs to be used? That should be having a criteria, right? So what are the criteria for a disease needs to be? Which disease you are going to choose for screening? Obviously, the disease which is having a higher prevalence that needs to be screened, right? Diabetes, hypertension, they are so much prevalent, and if undiagnosed, they are going to give complications. You want to do that. So, something having a prevalence is one thing, but it should be a major public health problem. A disease which is not creating any public health problem, so you are not going to do any screening for that disease, right? It should be a public health problem, or it is having a higher prevalence. That disease we are going to screen. Next, it should have a recognizable latent period, right? It doesn't have any latent period. Means you can diagnose only once the signs and symptoms are developed or a stage where the irreversible stage has reached, then only you are going to diagnose, then it's not of a use, right? A disease which is having a sufficient latent period, they should give some time period. If you diagnose during that period, you can reverse it. So only those diseases can be screened. And we should know the natural history. Okay, I have done a smear examination and I saw these are the findings. There is some changes has occurred. So such changes, will it lead to the carcinoma, or is this just going to be a benign one? I should know what is, how does it proceed? That particular change in the, it may be a blood parameter or maybe a from a smear, right? Whatever you have taken. So if it is left unattended, how it is going to proceed? It is going to be ended up in complication, or is it going to resolve by itself? How much time is going to take for further progression to the grievous state? So that should be known. So natural history of the particular disease should be known. If not, there is no meaning in screening. And there should be a test to detect prior to onset of signs and symptoms. If there is no test, what you can do? Yes, lungs and cancer is very much uh, public health problem. It is there, right? So, but there is no test to detect at the earliest stage. So, what can be done? Nothing can be done, right? So, if you want to take a particular disease for the screening, so obviously there should be a test available to be done. Then there should be facilities to confirm the diagnosis. And as I said, screening test is usually an initial stage. It's not giving a final diagnosis, right? So if you have detected some changes, so is it uh, confirmed cancer or not? So I'm just giving an example of cancer here. Whatever the disease you have been tested by a screening test, right? It needs to be confirmed. We're not going to say that it's a final disease with the screening test. So there should be a facility available. So it may be just like in case of a breast cancer, you have done a breast examination, right? You might have done a mammography. So it needs to be confirmed by FNSA. So there's no facility for FNSA. So you're done, and there's no further follow-up is done. So there is no meaning. So there should be a facilities to confirm the diagnosis. Then there should be an effective treatment should be available. Yes, you have diagnosed a breast cancer or you have diagnosed a lung cancer, right? But there is no proper treatment. So there's no meaning in being a glad. Yes, I have diagnosed. No. Ultimately, you're doing a screening test who's apparently looking healthy, and after that, you just diagnosed and you're giving him attention that you have a cancer. He's going to die early because you don't have a treatment. Let him be happy at least not knowing the disease when you don't have a treatment. If there is a treatment, okay, there is a meaning in diagnosing him early, right? So you have diagnosed him early, and there's a treatment available with it. He is going to cure, or you are going to minimize his further deterioration. So yes, there is a meaning in diagnosing. So, but if there is no effective treatment, there is no meaning in diagnosing early or applying a screening test, right? And there should be an agreed on policy concerning whom to treat as patients. So if you want to treat for a hypertension, you should know what is the cutoff value, right? Whom to treat, whom not. So you know that someone's blood pressure is above 140 for systolic, above 90 of a diastolic blood pressure, you're going to treat him. Yes, I know whom to treat, right? So someone's 160 is there, the systolic blood pressure, diastolic 100, yes, you know. So there's a meaning in doing an examination of blood pressure. If it is abnormal, you're going to treat it. Similarly, for cancer, it is there may be cancer in situ, whether you have to treat or not, right? So there should be clear cut. Blood sugar level above 200 is there, a random blood sugar or a postprandial it is there, right? So he needs to be treated. There is clear cut guideline is there. At what cutoff value the treatment has to be done. The clear cut guideline is there, yes. Then you can proceed with that screening, right? So then early detection and treatment should reduce morbidity and mortality. Whether you treat early or whether you treat late. So there's not much difference in outcome. So anyhow some 5% are going to die whether you treat early or late. So there's no meaning in doing a screening test for that. You can wait until a person develops the signs and symptoms, then you're going to diagnose it. We are diagnosing it early, we should have an advantage, right, by treating early. So then only you can do a screening test and treat it. So expected benefits of early detection should exceed the risk and cost. So okay, some advantage is there if I do a screen test and diagnosing early, but I need to apply a very costly investigation needs to be done to confirmation. That itself is more costly than a treatment itself, or that investigation itself carries some risk of some injury because you have to do invasive procedure to confirmation. Then also we don't prefer to use a screening test, right? Obviously the benefit should overweigh, then only are going to do a screening test. If not, no. Now coming to the criteria for screening test. In the last two slides, I told about the criteria for disease. Which disease needs to be selected, I told, right? Someone which is having a major public health problem, which has got a test to confirm, which is having a lead time, right? So all those criteria are for a disease. What disease need to be screened? Then which test needs to be applied? What are the criteria I'm going to say, right? One thing is acceptability. A test which we are going to apply for as a screening test for a disease should be acceptable, right? So especially the invasive procedures acceptance chance is less, and especially tests like that where you want to do a per rectal examination, per vaginal examination, so this acceptability is less. But unfortunately, if you're doing a screening for cervical cancer, obviously uh, it has to be accepted because you don't have any other alternative with doing a speculum examination, taking a pap smear, or adding an acid and testing for it. So all those is a thing, but obviously, but screen test will not succeed if the acceptability is poor. Then comes to the repeatability. You apply a screening test. So today you apply, it has shown one finding. Then tomorrow you apply, it is showing some other finding. So such test can't be preferred, right? Because today you diagnosed him as having a disease. It happened with COVID also. Someone is diagnosed today as positive, next day it is negative, right? So none of the tests are 100% perfect. You remember that. We want to minimize the things. That's what you remember. We can't say that all the tests should give the same result all the time. It is not possible. But at least most of the time, the test, if you repeat, it should give the consistently the same result. It should give the consistently the same result. Then that test becomes acceptable. But why the results are not repeatable? Why it is not showing consistency? One, whether there is enough observer variation, right? So it becomes under observer variation. So what observer variation? It may be intra-observer variation or inter-observer variation. A same person doing the reporting or examination on two different circumstances, so giving a different results, that becomes an intra-observer variation. Same person twice seen the same x-ray but giving a different report. That is one intra-observer variation. Inter-observation, two persons have seen the same smear, so one said there is a malarial parasite present and the said malarial parasite is not present, or one said histopathology there is a benign and the said that's a there is a malignancy is there, right? So that is inter-observer variation. So how to reduce this observer variation? So mainly there should be a standardization. What constitute a positive result? What is the clear-cut cutoff? There should be a standard available. If there is no proper standard is available, then there comes the variability, observed variations to come, right? There should be clear-cut standardization. There should be clear-cut guidelines. What cells to look for, what colored cells to look for, how many cells to be looked for, If that is a present, then only I'm going to label as far as possible. Some means reduce the chance of subjectivity, right? So okay, finally it's left to him or her to decide. No, it can't be. There should be a standard criteria to detect if it is there. Such tests are more acceptable. And some biological variation also can be the reason, right? If you examine someone's blood pressure in the morning and again you examine in the evening, there's a little bit different findings can will be there, right? So it can be another thing is if you someone has done a walking and come, someone is in stress just looking at a doctor, right? So his blood pressure may increase or decrease, right? So you should need to take into consideration the biological variation. Again, you have to do a take average. Even in the observed variation also, what to advise is take a repeated measurements, take an average of it. So if you take the average of it, so then usually you can say that readings can be more accurate. So uh, there can be biological variations. Next is errors related to technical methods, right? So if there is there is no proper calibration in the instruments, or there is an instrumental error is there. So in the microscope itself, there is something is there, so which is making a wrong diagnosis, right? So errors related to technical methods can be there is a curve is there, it is a curve size is very much small, so it is giving a falsely high results, high blood pressure, right? So such shouldn't be happening, right? So if these all variations are reduced, errors are reduced, right, then the test becomes acceptable, right? Then that test can be used. So it should be acceptable to the community for whom you are going to apply, and it should be repeatable. If you repeat it, the finding should be same, repeated by another person, repeated by himself, or different time, the result should be same, then the test can be applied. Or you need to have some standards so that these variations can be reduced. Next comes the validity or the accuracy. So in any screening test, if you want to use, so it should be valid or it should be accurate. So what all things will describe the validity or accuracy will be said in next slide. So if you look at this table, so where what you are seeing is a deceased, not deceased, and there is test positive, test negative, and the total is there, right? So what all things can happen here? So there are total number of deceased. Let us assume that is A plus B is there. So in that A may be positive, B may be negative, right? So in the deceased, how many are test positive, how many are test negative? The non-deceased, how many are test positive, how many are test negative? That's what this table is trying to say. So if someone is having a disease and the test says positive, so what it is? It's a true positive. He has a disease and test also is saying a positive. That means that is a true positive. He has the disease and test also is giving a positive result. That is true positive. He has a disease but the test is giving negative. That is falsely negative. Test is what? Negative. But is it correct? No, it's not correct. He is having a disease, but the test is saying he is negative. That is false negative, right? He is deceased, but the test RT-PCR is negative. But if you look at HRCT test, so it is showing that the changes are there. They're typically of COVID. So then that person is falsely negative, right? Okay. So usually we compare it with some gold standard. So usually when first time you want to introduce a test, we compare with the gold standard to what extent it can detect the disease, right? Okay, so someone is deceased but the test is showing negative, that is a false negative. Someone is not having the disease but the test is showing positive. Test is positive but he is not deceased, so that becomes false positive. He don't have the disease but test has shown it as positive, that is false positive. There can be one more thing. The person is not deceased and the test is showing negative. So that means he is truly negative. He don't have the disease and the test is also showing negative. It is a true negative. Alright. So ideally we expect only the true positive and true negative should be there. But in most of the tests we get false positives also. We also get false negative also. Right. So what I am saying is validity of a test. So what all things are included in validity of a test? One thing is sensitivity. So what is sensitivity? Ability of a test to detect who are having the disease. That is true positives. Ability of a test to detect who are suffering from the disease. Ability of a test to detect the true positives. That is sensitivity. Specificity is ability of a test to detect true negatives or who are not suffering from the disease. True negatives. Sensitivity is true positives. Specificity is true negatives. Right? Then positive predictive value. Patient with a positive test result actually has a disease in question. That is a positive predictive value. Suppose if the test has given positive result in 40 people, actually how much proportion in them are actually having a disease is a positive predictive value. If the 40 it has shown, but ideally in that one only 30 are diseased. So it becomes 75% is the positive predictive value. Right? Means if there is a 100 people have been having the test result as positive, but if the positive predictive value is 75%, that means in that only 75 are positive, rest are given as falsely as positive. Right? If the test gives 100 people as positive result, actually in that how many are having the disease? That what is said by positive predictive value. Sensitivity, how, what is sensitive? If you want to define, if there are 100 people having the disease, among that the test will detect how many? 100 people are having the disease, but the test gave positive result only among 90 of those deceased. So sensitive the test is 90%, we can say. Among the deceased, how many it can detect? That is sensitivity. Among the positives, actually how many are having the disease is positive predictive value. I repeat, among the deceased, how many are actually uh, detected by the test, that is sensitivity. Among the total positives which is given by the test, actually how many are having the disease, that is positive predictive value. Otherwise, negative predictive value. Patient with a negative test result do not have the disease in question, that is negative predictive value. If 100 people are uh, diagnosed as negative, actually how many people are truly negative in that one? That is a negative predictive value. That means if it is 100 people, the test has come as negative. So negative predictive value of the test is 98. That means 98 people truly doesn't have the disease. 2 people it has given falsely as negative. Right? So negative predictive value. So if you want to say by a formula, then sensitivity is A by A plus C. Why A by A plus C? A is true positive. A plus C is deceased. Into 100, normally we express it in percentages. Hence the multiplier is 100. What I said sensitivity is ability of a test to detect true positives. True positives is A. Right? Among the deceased. That's why it is A plus C. Among the deceased, how many are true positive? Among the total deceased, if there are 100, the test is able to detect only A. Among the A plus C, it will be able to detect only A. That is sensitivity. Specificity is ability of the test to detect true negatives. True negative is D. Right? D divided by B plus D. Among the not deceased, how many it says that truly they are negative. Next is predictive value of a positive test. Among the total positives, we say total positives is A plus B, right? Total positives is A plus B. So among that, actually having the disease is A. Hence it is A by A plus B into 100. That is predictive value of a positive test. Predictive value of a negative test, right? Among the total negatives, that is C plus D. Among the total negatives, that is C plus D. Among the total, how many does actually said negative? That is D. That is true negative, right? D by C plus D into 100 is the predictive value of a negative test. Next, we can also calculate percentage of false positives. So percentage of false positive. So it has to be false positive. So false positive is B, right? So the false positive can come only among the non-deceased, right? So it has to be B by B plus D into 100. Percentage of false negative. So false negative can come only in deceased individual. So denominator has to be A plus C. What is the false negative? That is C. C divided by A plus C into 100 is percentage of false negative. Sensitivity is true positive. Specificity is true negative. Predictive value of positive test among the total positives, how many are actually having the disease, right? Predictive value of a negative test is among the total negatives, how many are actually truly negative, right? So I hope this is clear. So in the next class I'll be solving some exercises on these things, right? The sensitivity, specificity, predictive value of positive test and negative test, and even percentage false positives and percentage false negative. So one more terminology which you need to know in a screening for disease is yield. So amount of previously unrecognized disease that is diagnosed as a result of the screening test, that we call it as a yield. Amount of previously unrecognized disease that is diagnosed as a result of screening test, right? You applied a screening test. If not, you shouldn't have been diagnosing that. That is an yield, right? Next is combination of a test. About this a little bit I told, that is a multi-staging, where what you want to do is you apply one screening test initially, right, which is having a high sensitivity. Then you apply one more test, second test also. So if it is again positive, then you go for a confirmatory, or based on the findings, if both are positive, then only I am going to label it as a positive. Like that also can be done. That is a combination of a tests usually done, right? So either way, so if it depends upon the how much sensitivity and specificity they have. So depending on the sensitivity specificity, we decide whether the test result has to be chosen as positive if both are positive, or only one is positive, right? So that is combination of tests. Next is evaluation of screening program. So you have applied a screening program, so whether it has benefited or not, if you want to test. So what all you can do, one is by randomized controlled trials, right? So randomized controlled trials will help you. So there is a one particular group of people in whom the screening test has been applied. In another particular group, the screening test was not applied, and ultimately you are going to see the outcome in both the groups, right? So randomizely they are grouped and applied some screening test, and later you have treated. In another group you have not done. So overall, you at the end you look for the decrease in morbidity or mortality or a disability, and we can say whether the screening program is effective or not. Sometimes you do uncontrolled trials. So in a particular area you apply this test, so before and afterwards, so whether any decline is there or not, right? So some other methods are also applied where the control group is not available, right? So when you don't have a control group, whether from that area itself or in another area, so where there is no screening test has been applied, so you will be comparing with that area or with previous statistics, and you decide whether the screening test is really effective or not, right? So that's how we evaluated screening program. So today I told you about the screening for diseases, right? So in that, especially the criteria for a screening test is more important. Of course, disease also is important, right? So I told you about the uses of screening. I told you of a definition of a screening. I told you about the types of screening, evaluation of screening, and a criteria for screening test and a disease, right? So okay. So with this, I'll be ending my today's class. Thank you.